Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 23rd of January, comes to you from London. And I start by looking at German power. Just put a post up on LinkedIn. For a lot of my followers are in the energy market, and just interesting to see how we've had quite a strong recovery off this 150 level back into the 180s. We are down this morning 4%, but we are really crossing the cloud for the first time. And the key thing here is that the traditional subjective trend line that you might draw on, I mean, that was actually crossed last week. That requires you to draw it. With the clouds, you're effectively getting that visual representation of when you're crossing. So we went bearish here around 270, 260, 270 euros, fell all the way down to 150 euros, and now we're seeing that recovery. And this is really that's the best recovery that we've seen in the last few weeks. And what we're seeing here is new price action of higher highs, higher lows, classic Dow theory. We're down this morning, but that's within trend, and we're starting to see that cross. So that's really quite interesting, and that means that we're also seeing targets kicking in. Now, we do have a mixed picture on the targets. You need to watch the 1 minute targets, and when you get more upside targets, they're going to tell you what's happening. So remember to watch those on your charts. So that's just a quick look at German power. We'll come back and look at the energy mix in the end, but let's have a look at the main markets. So looking at the major markets, we'll start by looking at Forex, then we'll look at stocks, and last of all, we'll look at commodities. So we see the dollar is continuing to fall down a further 1/3% this morning. We've got targets now down to 98 and 99. Remembering this is the short-term 60-minute chart with the corresponding point and figure chart targets. This is my weekly chart and my daily charts. This is my long-term, medium-term and short-term view of the market. I'm running on top of a Refinitiv icon here, but Updata runs on up to 40 different data services, including Bloomberg, Tradeport, Montel, whatever you're running, you can run into Updata. And there's a whole list of data services that you can just configure on the fly. Really very straightforward. Just go to data services and just turn on the ones that you're subscribed to. And quite a lot of these are free services that you can integrate into Updata as well. So we're looking here at the dollar index falling lower. And if we look at the euro, that means we're up higher. We're up 0.5% above the 109 level. And that's really very significant. We're seeing that 109. We've got targets to 110, a target that was given last week to 114.90, let's say 115. So that's really quite strong. We don't have medium and long-term targets to match that, but we will get a new target here. And interestingly, then we have a mixed picture, and we are just testing cloud resistance there on the weekly. So very interesting week ahead for the euro. Looking at sterling, we're sitting at 123.97, so stronger here against that weaker dollar. We did nudge 124.50 this morning, so that's really quite strong. And we've got targets to 128, 127, so looking higher and higher all the time. So that's also looking quite interesting. Against the euros, sterling sitting at 113.64, fairly static, and we are just seeing a bit of a fall away, having touched 114.5 last week. So on the whole, sterling is just slightly underperforming the euro there. Bitcoin is sitting at $22,732, remembering that we did get this upside target to 22,000 given, and that was really hard to believe at the time, but at 17,800, that was the target. That's been met and exceeded, so that is quite bullish news, and that downside target to 9,000 has come off the chart because we've moved above that column, we've negated it, and so the negation of the target is really quite key. So quite interesting there for Bitcoin. We're holding on to those gains, and we've got some short-term targets. And of course, if you're trading crypto, keep an eye on your 1 minute targets on the 1 minute chart. They'll be kicking in and out all the time. Looking at the NASDAQ on Friday, we saw here that the market actually just did perk up quite a bit towards the end of the week. And so we're looking a little bit stronger, not quite yet a cloud cross, and we are still bearish on the longer term weekly chart. We do have these downside targets and a tussle going on at the moment. That's what we're seeing with these matched columns here. We do have an upside target, but also equally we have a downside target as well, which was nearly met. So we've got to just watch that picture. But for the moment, we're seeing a recovery. Looking at the markets today, we've got the S&P future up is down 0.01%, and the NASDAQ is up 0.06%. So these are virtually unchanged. It means the market for the moment will open flat. We'll wait for those indices to move as we go into the US Open, but the reality is at the moment the market is not pricing in a rise or a fall. It's completely flat. FTSE future is up very slightly, nudging these levels. Not much to do to get to new all-time highs, breaking that 4-year high of, that we saw. And if we look at the DAX in Germany, we're up 0.25% here this morning. Lower energy prices really helping the German market, and we are seeing here we've still got work to do to get through on the lagging line on the weekly, and there's a shortage of clear targets here, but we are holding the gains. Japan is sitting 1% higher. In fact, I put a poll out on LinkedIn this morning which market would go highest this year, and it was between the US S&P, the UK, Japan and India. And so really all you have to do is look at the 1% chart. That's a month's time, months ahead is the time frame here. We've got 25-26% upside. If we look at the Sensex in India, which is this one here, we've got 33 to 47% upside. It's quite interesting seeing how the poll is developing. Over 300 people have voted so far. I think it'll be over 1,000 people by the end of the day. You'll find it on my LinkedIn. And the consensus at the moment is locked between two markets, neck and neck. But the interesting thing is the point and figure targets are pointing to India with the strongest gains potential. Looking at the Aussie market, we're flat here overnight, so not much gains. The Australia Day week here, we go on Friday, we'll have a holiday. And if we look at, we'll look at the energy mix shortly, but looking at gold, we see here we're sitting at 1928, so we're back up again. That's good news for gold bulls, and we are still above the cloud on all three time frames, so gold is looking more bullish. Silver just couldn't quite hold on to that $24 level and still has work to do to get through the weekly cloud, but we do have these strong upside targets, and if silver breaks $30, then it's going to be a substantial move, because that's a sideways consolidation before the next big move up. If we look at platinum, that's also been looking pretty interesting, bullish above the cloud here, and on the shorter term chart we've still got a little bit of work to do. Palladium is the odd man out, still not looking very bullish below the clouds there, so it doesn't follow that all precious metals are going up, but gold is certainly looking the best at the moment. Copper is looking pretty strong too. If you just look at the commodities here, moving back above the weekly cloud, that breakout on the daily really significant, and we've got upside targets there to play for. Interesting to see how those targets have been 435, 449 nearly met, so that's also quite interesting. If we look at US 10-year yields, just struggling at those 3.5% levels, so that's really something to watch there. And if we look at the tech market, we've got Apple back above the 130 level quite convincingly. All of these tech companies cutting their staff. We saw that out from Amazon. Quite interesting there. We saw the announcement they were cutting staff. Not enough to change the trend. Alphabet announced last week as well. Again, not enough to really change the trend, but the market liked it short term, that's for sure. And if we look at Microsoft also announcing cuts, the market liked it short term there as well. But Alphabet certainly seemed to benefit the most there. And a quick look at Tesla, back at that 133 level, having hit the 110 target that was given. So we're seeing a recovery there as well. Looking at the energy mix now quickly, we've got Brent Crude. That's looking stronger this morning, up 0.5%. We went out calling that bullish to clients. Looking at emissions, we are down 1%, but with the chart is looking pretty good now. We're above that 80 level. We did just touch 85 this morning, so that's looking pretty good. 86 even we touched, so that's looking pretty good, and the targets are there. 87 was the target. We haven't quite got there yet. And if we look at MVP, that's down 5% this morning. Amazing given how cold it is in the UK that we are seeing these prices falling. TTF also lower, but we are starting, like German power, starting to show signs that we might have bottomed and we're starting to cross the cloud. Keep a close eye on your price targets on your 1 minute chart. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.